friends! Welcome to our last week of Paper Circus this summer. I am super excited that we are doing Pokemon Week. Thank you to Rohan, who suggested Pokemon, and some of our friends in Zoom like Naomi and Kaya and the Goods, who helped us choose which Pokemons we should do. So I'm really excited about this week. And also, we're going to take 2 weeks off and then we're going to start back up in September. We have a survey out to see what will work best for you guys come fall for distance learning and how we can support you best. So questions like what time of day, what types of things do you want to learn, those types of things. It's really quick. So if you have a minute, you should go check out our survey. If you haven't done it already, it'll really help us make a program that works for you guys. And if you've been following us along and you're like, this is an amazing program, we should do it, you totally should, and you can sign up at patreon.com/rosieresearch. All right, so I am going to tell you guys what you need for today, that if you need to go run and grab it, you can, and then we'll get to some shout-outs before we start our Pikachu. All right, so today we need a battery. We have a CR2032 battery. It's a 3-volt battery. It's really important that it's 3 volts. Some of these little coin cell batteries can be 1.5 volts, and that will not light up your LED. All right, so you want to look for 3 volts. It doesn't have to be a 2032. It could be a different size, like a different shape. Sometimes they're thicker or wider. That's all fine as long as it's 3 volts. It just changes how long it lights your LED for. You want some LEDs. I always suggest getting a nice little case like this that has a bunch of different colors. I'm going to be using red today, but maybe you want Pikachu's cheeks to do something different. Maybe a rainbow could be really cool because Pikachu's like an electric little creature. I learned that Pika actually is the electrical noise that you hear in Japanese, and Chu is like a mouse, so it's really like an electrified little mouse. You need some copper tape. So this is what we use to set down our highways for the electrons to go on to light up that LED. And then you need a different type of tape, a non-conductive tape that doesn't act like a highway, it acts sort of like a big cement blockade. So that would be a paper tape or a plastic tape, masking tape, duct tape, electrical tape, scotch tape, all of those types of things will work as your non-conductive tape. And then we need some scissors to cut it out. I have a black pen because after we cut it out today, we're gonna sort of like just add some ink in so that we can create our little Pikachu character and it will look less like just a white piece of paper. I would suggest for you guys, if you want, you could pause the video and color it. It might be easier to color right away when it's nice and flat, or you can wait until after. But I think we're gonna put the lines in to make sure that we don't get some weird bumps and we don't get frustrated with how the lines go in as we do it. And that's all we need. Here's Charmander, who we're doing tomorrow. And we're gonna light up his tail. You can kind of see it a little bit. I think I'm gonna put a rainbow one in there tomorrow. Alrighty, before we start, let's see who we have with us today. On our last week on Monday.
We have a little bit of a crowd.
Ooh.
We have, and she's been here for a little while.
Hi, Naomi. Hello, Naomi. I hope you had a great weekend. It's been lovely out here. It was overcast all weekend. I love overcast. It was great.
We also have Mimi's back.
Hello, Mimi. Oh, I'm so happy you're with us today for Pokemon Week. Yay. I would love to see your guys' projects.
And we have our friends from Eastern Washington, Cy and Quinn.
Hello, friends. Oh my goodness. Cy and Quinn go back to my longest friend ever. We met in 1st grade. It's her little people. I'm so excited you guys are with us today. Yay. What a good week, Pokemon Week. I know Cy loves Pokemon.
Who would have known?
I know. It's exciting.
We have Kailani and Keiko.
Oh, hello, Kailani and Keiko. I'm so glad you guys are here too. I hope you guys are having a great summer. Oh, this is so exciting.
We have
this is fun.
Frankie and Iris.
Yay! Frankie and Iris, you're back. You girls are going to make some awesome Pokemon. I know it.
And we have Zoe, Brody, and Chase.
Oh, hello. How are you, friends? I hope you guys are doing good too. We missed you guys on, what was the week? Underwater Week.
Underwater Week.
We did Underwater Week at your suggestion, and we missed you. You guys should go check it out and then send us pictures.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
All right.
That's what we have for our early morning wakers.
Awesome. We will say hello to Rohan and Venetia and Kaya and Hassan, because I know that those are our friends who come later. Normally, I also say hello to Zoe, Brody, and Chase, but you guys are here today.
Nice.
All right, so let's get started. The first thing we are going to do is we are going to cut around on this thick black line. That's our outline for our little guy. And I would try to save this little Pikachu right here. It's mirrored so that when we draw on the other side, we can sort of copy what we see there. Because when we flip it over, it's going to mirror our little Pikachu. So the first thing we got to do here is we got to cut out our cute little Pikachu along those dark lines. And I learned that Pikachu's actually quite small. Pikachu's like a foot tall and like 13 pounds, like a small dog. Could you imagine having like a little Pikachu in your house, like a little small puppy? You just like take your Pikachu for walks.
And it also can shoot lightning.
And it would be, yes, and it can also shoot lightning. Apparently if you pull its tail, it gets really angry and it zaps you. So this might not be a pet for children, for homes with children in it. Although you would learn quickly.
Yeah, exactly. Little
So,
it's like putting your hand on the stove.
Yeah. And then you gain a Pikachu pet, and how cool would that be to have a Pikachu as a pet? Like, that would curl up next to you on the couch while you read a good book. Oh, that'd be pretty awesome. I would love that. I think it'd also be cool to have that power where, like, somebody pulls something that you don't want, like your hair, and you're like, zap. That will show you.
You know, I think Pikachu actually likes ketchup. That's like his favorite food.
Yes, Pikachu loves ketchup. And like, where is that from? I mean...
The goods are here!
Oh, hello, goods! It's good to see you, John, and maybe Ellie, and maybe Rachel. That's super awesome. We are just cutting out our awesome little Pikachu Pokemon. First, you guys are old pros, you know what to do.
Yeah, some of the tighter bends might be hard for little hands.
It's true. But, you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be perfect, my friends. Right? We have some friends who have been coming all the time, all summer, so their projects are usually, they come together pretty quickly. But if you are new and you haven't been here for a while, don't get discouraged. It can be really tricky, especially with these paper circuits.
It looks like if you were looking for Pikachus, you can find them in forests. And I know around us
we have a forest.
So maybe we can find one if we go.
Our backyard is quite literally a forest.
You can see it back there. It's foresty.
Fantastic. The owls are eating all of our bunnies in our forest.
They don't. I saw an owl sitting on our punching bag.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
I'm pretty sure it ate a bunny because I haven't seen any bunnies lately.
Yeah. All right, so the first thing I'm actually going to do after we've cut out our Pikachu, I'm going to tape it, and if you've been to our class a bunch, you're like, Dr. Erica, that's the wrong way. I'm going to tape it the wrong way so we can add a couple of details to make it easier to color in later. So you guys have this little picture of our Pikachu. This is going to be the front, and that's because after we build it, we kind of want to hide all of this stuff in the back. And that protects the circuit, and it just makes it look prettier. You wouldn't want a Pikachu that you drew on this side. It's just not as cute. So we're going to flip it over and hide everything, and we'll make his little cheeks light up. So a couple of main things to notice as we're drawing this is the first thing is we've got like sort of like this little black on the ears. So we can just make a little line right there. And then the same thing on this ear, which is underneath my tape. I'm just going to draw over the tape for right now for you guys. Just like that. And that'll give me these ears. And the next thing is I have these eyes, and they're kind of wide apart. And they're a little down from the ear, so we want to have these sort of they're very round eyes. That are kind of wide apart. They're not huge either. And there's like little white circles inside. We can put those in right now if we want to. It makes them look a little creepy if you don't color it in black, but that's okay. And then one thing to notice here is this sort of comes down. Now our cut stopped here where the arm goes out, right? So our outline looks like that. So we need to draw this little cheek line from this elbow spot that's right there and sort of down. So we'll draw this guy kind of coming down like that.
He's so cute.
And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side, right? So you'll notice here's that spot that we cut, just like that. And his face actually comes down a little bit. So go to that spot. And we'll come down and we'll make his little face come down a little. And now we're going to put a little dot for the nose. Just like that. And I'm kind of noticing this is like a really wide W. I see like a really wide W with the point sort of at the nose. And sort of comes like this wide W. And it looks like that. And then he's got a really really big smile coming down, which makes me super happy. It actually almost comes down, if I were to extend this, it almost comes down to where these guys would meet. So I can bring it really far down, just like that. And I'll put like a little bump for his tongue. And you'll notice I'm calling my Pikachu a he, and that's because apparently there's a dent in the tail when it's a girl Pikachu. So if you wanted a girl Pikachu, we just need to add, you just like snip out a dent in the tail. All right, and then the other things I want to add is this piece right down here, which is tricky. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to draw his little bum that comes down like this. So this part sort of comes like that, which will give me a spot, sort of like a little swooptiness. And then I'm going to draw this part of the foot first, because if I draw his sort of leg, I'm going to have the drawing part inside of his foot. So I'm going to do like a little C, sort of at an angle, and it's a backward C. So I sort of have a backward C like that for his foot. And I can put his little toes in, just like that. And now I'm going to have this sort of in that comes like that. And I'm going to put my little toes on this one. And now I have like a little drawn in Pikachu. You guys can color this in. You could also add maybe this part on his tail that has like where it's brown to yellow. But now you're ready to color this in. It's sort of ready for you to add to. If you want, you could totally pause the video and color this in right now before we get into wiring our circuit. That's definitely a personal choice. The tricky thing, I think, is if once you put the circuit in, it is going to be like a little bumpity. But I think it's easier to color. It's not too bad to color. It's just really hard to draw our little lines. All right. And I have got to take a moment and color in the black here on his eyeballs, because sometimes you might feel like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? And then a little bit of extra something can make it so much better. There. Now my Pikachu looks less like a crazy monster and more like a cute little Pikachu. Fabulous. All right, so when you're happy with the lines you have, what we're going to do next is we are going to flip our Pikachu over. Zoop! And we see our wiring diagram.
That's what Pikachu looks like inside.
This is Pikachu inside, yeah. We need to electrify him right now. So the first thing that we're going to do is with our copper tape, we're going to lay down tape on this yellow line, this bright yellow line right here.
Did you remember your creases?
Ooh, I didn't. Oh, thank you, Evan. We're also going to add our creases. So there's these two gray dotted lines right here that fold this flap up. So there's one. And then the other one is really, really close. It just creates like a sort of clamshell so that we have a button we can press. And that just sort of brings this over. So you just want to crease along those two lines right there. And then we are going to start with our copper tape. So for our friends who have not had a chance to do paper circuits with us, here is a really important trick with copper tape. So we're going to get it started just like this, where we peel the white backing off of our copper tape. And notice that the copper tape on the sticky side, it still looks copper colored. It's not white, all right? And that will stick to my finger. When we get it to this point, we always want to stick it onto the paper and start sticking it down. And that's because if we were to peel this off, it's going to get really crinkly and curly, and it's totally unusable. It's not going to work for us. All right. The other trick is like when we do this yellow line, we need to do it in one piece. All right. So you want to do this in one piece, which means we need to bend it. And I'm going to show you guys just how to do that. So I'm going to get it started by just getting my nail between the copper tape and that paper backing.
And we're going to do yellow, then the
Yeah, we're going to do yellow first, and then we're going to add some tape down, and then we're going to do orange, and then we'll do the battery.
So yellow first.
Yellow first, yes.
Only yellow.
Only yellow right now, my friends. And then don't continue on after the yellow. All right, so I'm going to peel it and stick it, and then I'm going to give myself some space. So I peeled a few inches off. And you'll notice I can really move it around. So I'm just going to move this down to where I want it. And I'm just going to stick it on down. Now I have a huge loop that's okay. I can just press that loop down and it comes out over the edge, but I can just bend it away just like that. No big deal. The important thing is I did not rip my copper tape right there. All right, if you ripped your copper tape right there, I would take up this piece and try again. If you have a ton of trouble doing that and you have to rip it right there, what you can do is place a little piece of foil on top with some tape down. But ideally we can get around that bend. And we are going to follow down and into this gray circle. All right, and now when I say into the gray circle, notice I'm going well into that gray circle. It's not just on this edge. I'm going well into it, and then you can just press your finger down and it will rip the tape for you. Or you could use a pair of scissors. But it's important that I'm really into that gray circle right there. Awesome. You can press that down with your thumbnail if you'd like to. And then we're going to take a piece of your non-conductive tape. All right, so we're going to put down our copper tape. We're going to take our non-conductive tape. It's going to be paper or plastic tape, like a scotch tape. And do you see this big blue rectangle right here? We're going to cover up the copper tape we just put down that's over the top of that green circle. That's really what we're trying to do. So I'm going to take my copper tape and I'm going to put it down here. And notice that my tape is not long enough for it to cover all the way down here. If it was too long and I covered this, we're going to break our circuit. All right, in fact, mine's almost too long according to my diagram. I'm going to cut it just a little bit shorter, just to be really good about where I put it. But notice how that sort of comes off before that. This last little bit's not as important, but it is important we don't cover that up. So if you're using clear tape, that's something to be really thoughtful of right now because you won't see it later when your circuit's broken, okay? All right, so now I have my copper tape on the yellow line, and I added some scotch tape or some masking tape over that copper tape in that blue box. And now we're gonna do this orange that looks like a big U. All right, so we're gonna take another piece of copper tape. We're gonna get it started, just like that. And then again, once we get it started, we're gonna stick it right to the paper. So I'm gonna stick it right down here. We wanna make sure these two don't touch each other. I'm gonna stick it right on down. Oops. And then where I need to bend it, I'm gonna give myself a little bit extra again. So you notice again, I can kind of move it wherever I want to with that extra. I'm gonna have a nice big bubble and I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm just gonna press it down inside that green circle and I can smush down this little piece right there of copper tape. No big deal. And I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna give myself some extra. I can wiggle it around like that and press it down up here. And then if I go backwards, I can sort of press it all down and I have this nice U of copper tape where it's all one piece. Just like that. And if you have a question about something, you can always type it into Evan. He will ask me in real time what is going on. All right, so our next step.
So wait, just go over what you did.
So okay.
Time, so we have...
All right, so we first did the bright yellow line in one piece of copper tape. Then we added this piece of masking tape right here to cover it up. And then we did this U, which had 2 bins in it. And remember, we give ourselves a bunch of extra. So my bins, they're really floppy. I have these huge pieces. That's okay, because it's still one piece of tape. It's not ripped. That's the important part. We just don't want our tape to rip, because that rips the highway, and once we rip the highway, the cars can't get from one highway to the other very well. It's much better if we have one roadway, and we don't have to, like, drive our car and hope we make the jump, because most of the cars won't make the jump. It'll be very sad. All right, so we are gonna first test our batteries as our next part before we put our battery in. And we like to do this because you never know if a battery is gonna work or not. It should work right out of the box, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes the LEDs don't work right out of the box. And it's important to know if our project doesn't work and has a problem, we wanna know that both the battery and the LED are not the problem. So if it's your first time, there's only a couple ways to hook this battery up to the LED. We could put both legs on top, which doesn't make a circuit. There's no circle that we're forming around that battery. Same thing if we put both legs on the bottom. All right? You could have your LED go around the battery where there's one leg on the top, and then you do have a circle because you go from the top through the LED into the bottom. So my LED is sort of straddling that battery. You'll notice it's not going on. And that's because, if you've watched this, you can probably say what I'm about to say. LEDs are like slides. Your electrons are driving on their highway and they're gonna slide into a tunnel and they're gonna have so much fun, they're gonna light up as they do it. But little electrons are the perfect rule followers. They will never go up the slide. They remember what their mamas told them, not to climb the slide, they'll never do it. So right now we have a whole bunch of traffic that's looking at the bottom of a slide and nothing is happening because those little electrons are like, no way, Jose, I can't go up the slide. My mama told me not to. If we flip the slide around, which is like flipping the LED around, then we have a whole bunch of traffic that slides down and they're having so much fun, they're lighting up and our LED lights up. So right now I know that this battery works and this LED works. We're using 2 LEDs for Pikachu. So what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna light the other LED also. And so you want the long leg on the top, which is the top of the battery is where we have all the inscriptions. So it'll say plus and it'll say, for ours it says CR2032 and a whole bunch of Chinese symbols. So you want the long leg on the top and the short leg on the bottom. The way that I remember that is it takes you a longer line to write the word plus than it does to write minus. So the longer leg goes with the longer line. So I have 2 LEDs here and they both light up. It's important you do both of your LEDs at the same time. Because if we were gonna do like a Pikachu with 1 red and 1 white, and I didn't test it, I might be in for a surprise when my white one doesn't light up. Okay, so sometimes some of these slides are way more fun than others, and all the electrons are like, that slide's so much cooler, I'm definitely going in that slide. I don't care what the line is like. So I can't do a red and a white or a red and a blue. So you want to double check if you're doing different colors or even that your battery is strong enough to do both. All right, so now I have a battery and 2 LEDs. They all light up together. I know all 3 of these work, so these are the exact ones I am going to use. I'm going to take my little LEDs off. We're going to plug our battery in right here, and we're going to plug it in on that green circle so we can see the writing. So it's going to be positive side up, so I can see a little plus sign still. The bottom side is like polka dots. All right, that side goes down towards the green circle, and we are going to tape it in place with our non-conductive tape. So our scotch tape or our masking tape are great for this. You don't need a ton, but one thing we do need to do is make sure that we don't tape over the top of our battery like that. And that's because to make this circuit work, we need to connect. Right, so we have something touching the bottom of the battery and we need it to go through the LED and into the top, which is going to come down here. But if I fold this up, it's going to touch the tape and not the top of the battery. So it's really important that we tape along the edge of this battery. And again, if you're using scotch tape, you're going to want to be really careful in this part, just because if you accidentally tape over the whole top, it'll be hard to see it. I like using really small pieces of tape. So this is just a really tiny piece of tape. I'm making sure not to tape up over here too, because I'm going to have to attach my LEDs up there. I really only need 1 piece of tape. You'll notice it sort of hangs in there. But I can add another piece of tape if I want to be a little bit more secure. And I could add it down right here. Again, just making sure, not to tape over too much of the top of the battery or the copper tape lines. Just like that. So you notice I got my battery, it's in, it's very small pieces of tape, and there's a whole bunch of silver battery I can still see. That only works as a tester if you're using something like a masking tape that you can see, because obviously if we're using clear tape, you can still see the whole top anyhow. But you want to make sure that you're just on those edges like that. All right, and now we are ready for our LEDs. Now you'll remember the direction of that slide matters. So here's our longer leg, it's slightly longer. There's our shorter leg, that's slightly shorter. And on our template, it tells me that this is the long legs. This one that we put down first, that was sort of like a 7, that's the long leg. So my long legs need to touch this one. My short leg is gonna touch that one. So I'm gonna just pull that shorter leg down, and I can put this in here. I wanna make sure I'm doing a good job touching that copper tape. So actually for this one I could even just have it come like this. And you'll notice I've got the long leg on top of the long leg line, and the short leg on top of the short leg line. And we are going to use a piece of our non-conducting tape to tape this in. I'm putting my LED just over that pink part, so it'll line up with his cute little cheeks. And when we tape it down, you're gonna wanna double check that you didn't accidentally shift your LED and the legs didn't accidentally tape onto the paper. All right, so you gotta really make sure that they're in nice and good. They're taped down to that copper wire. I like to press it really good. You could test it if you wanted to right now to test if that one works. And the way we would do that is we would close our circuit, which means we need to put this part of the copper tape on top of the battery. So if I flip this up, you'll notice it turns on. All right, so that's how we can test our battery, or our circuit that we've got so far. This one didn't light up, but that's because we don't have an LED there yet. So again, I'm gonna have my long leg run across here, and my short leg is gonna run down. So make sure we pay attention, because if we put it in backwards, it's not gonna work for us. All right, and it takes just a little bit of finagling and aligning to get it right where you want. It's gotta come up way more. And instead of just going straight across, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come up and bend it like a staple. So the leg sort of has a stapley part to it that goes along that line. So I have a nice little elbow bend right there. All right, and then I'm going to tape this LED in as well. Again, with a masking tape or a non-conductive tape. Scotch tape will work great. And we're just going to tape across those legs. And we're gonna press really hard on them after we tape across them. So we wanna just really press good on them. Just like that. Again, we want to make sure that those legs are touching the copper tape that we laid down earlier. They're not on the paper, they're right on top of the copper tape. And now we can test it again, and both of our LEDs light up, which is exactly what we want. I'm going to cut this a little shorter because my LEDs were a little bit tough there. I'm noticing that mine, if I were to tape it up here, is always on. I don't really want that. I want something more like this where I can press it and it turns on. I mean, if you love it to be always on, that's totally fine. It'll last about 4 or 5 days, just like this, always on. But if you would prefer that it's not always on, I have a trick for you. And that is a little piece of non-conductive tape. And the reason why it's always on is because this little piece right here is connecting with the battery on the edge. So the battery hat sort of comes down and then it goes out on this edge. So if I were to just cover up a little bit more of this tape, this copper tape right here, it can't do that when it bends over. So now it's still off, you'll notice, it's no longer on. And I can now press it on. And then if I tape this up here, I have to press on it to turn it on and off, which is exactly sort of what I prefer.
It's creating a little gap there.
It's creating a little bit of a gap so it's not always touching that guy. And then you tape that piece up and you have this little Pikachu that lights up. Now, if we flip our Pikachu around like that, you might say you want your cheeks a little somewhere different. If you're gonna do that, oops, I pressed it too hard. What I would do is just make sure that you're pressing really good on the legs as you move your LED. So you can move the bulb of the LED, you can grab onto it and move it, but press on the legs as you're doing that to make sure that you're not changing the contact. All right, and you can do that. Oops, mine, maybe what I'm gonna do here is I'm actually gonna lower this down just a little bit. So it's got even more of a gap. And then I really do have to press it. And now I have a little Pikachu that lights up and is ready to be colored in by us, which is pretty awesome. And I'm gonna check in to see if there's any questions from friends who are maybe having trouble. We are gonna head over into our Zoom classroom. So if you're having trouble and you're in our Zoom classroom, you can always show me the circuit really close and we'll sort of figure out what's been going on. We've had a really great success rate all summer long. So if you're having trouble, definitely would suggest you can get some one-on-one help in Zoom. And if everybody has their project working in Zoom, we have a lot of fun because we share pets. We've been seeing people do like flips. I have a friend for a talent show last week, he brought invention as his talent and he invented a fire extinguisher. So we had that. We have flute lessons. We just get a whole lot of fun in Zoom. So I'm going to say goodbye to my YouTube friends if we don't have questions.
Did I see Sai's arm up question?
Ooh, do we have a question?
Okay, he's got a question. You can type it to us.
Yes, so if you want to type your question, you can type it to us. And while Sai's typing that in, I will just say, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up. You'll get notifications all the time when we go live. So in September when we come, I know Kaya really wants to do weather, so we're going to have a weather week. I know Johnny Good really wants to do Indiana Jones, so we're going to have an Indiana Jones week, which I'm really excited about. I'm hoping that maybe I can find an archaeologist that we can do a field trip with, which I think would be so cool. And if you have other ideas for what we should do come September, you are more than welcome to email them to Dr. Erica at rosieresearch.com, and we'll put them on our list. And we have patrons who can vote, and they can say what they want to do. So we'll add it to the list, and they can vote, and our top 4 choices will be what we do for those 4 weeks of the month.
So all right. Sai's question is, his is not lighting up, and it may be that we have to look at it. But what is our most common troubleshooting? Yes, great question. So most common, troubleshooting. Let's look at some common ways to troubleshoot real fast. I'm going to open this guy up. So the most common things that we find are we accidentally taped over the top of the battery. And if it's not that we accidentally didn't notice our LED legs were on top of the copper tape. All right, if it's not those things, here is what I would do. I would double check that your copper tape didn't rip when you were doing bends. Now you might be like, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure it did rip. So here's the one big bend that matters if it rips. What you could do there is you could take either a little piece of aluminum foil, which I find a little easier, or a little piece of this copper tape, and you could take it, you don't even need to take the backing off, you could just take it and put it copper side down over that sort of bend, and that can fix that for you. You would want to tape over the whole top of it, just like this. You would want to tape over all of that part of it, just to make sure that it stays down. All right, if you find that it like sort of flickered, Sai, and it didn't quite light up, but it just, if you have it just right, you can get those LEDs to be like, just blink. And you're like, oh, why? Why did they blink but they're not working? So usually if that is what happens, what it is it's these legs that are not touching enough. And it might look like they're doing a great job touching, but what you can do to ensure that they do better, I just ripped mine, is you can pull this up. All right, and if you rip it as you pull it up, you got to pull it up a little more carefully than I did. That's okay. Hang on. This will be a great chance to show you guys how to troubleshoot it again. All right, so I just ripped that whole piece of copper tape off. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a piece of copper tape, I'm going to relay down that wire because this leg can't touch that. It's too far. And then I'll show you guys the leg trick too. Let's put a better piece of tape here. We'll retape that leg really fast, and then we can also do the copper tape or the aluminum foil underneath. So I'm going to lift this leg all the way straight out, put a piece of copper tape down, that sort of comes right over here and meets it, and you might be like, but Dr. Erica, you told us we can't rip it, and I don't have a huge rip right there, it's very clear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my piece of masking tape, my non-conductive tape, and I'm going to take the little piece of copper tape face down on top of that spot that's split, and I'm going to just tape it in right like that. And now I'm going to do the same thing with this leg. I'm going to take a piece of copper tape, I'm going to put it face down so I sort of have a sandwich of copper tape and LED leg, and I'm going to tape that into place. All right, so if it just flickered and you wanted to make it better, this is what you would do. You would add either a piece of copper tape face down or a little piece of foil, and you would just then tape this part into place. Hang on, let me get a smaller piece of tape right there. So I'd then tape this sort of sandwich down, just like this, and that will help. All right, and then we can test and see. And even though I had that big gap, I was able to jump that gap. That's called jumping the gap, by putting that little piece down there and then make a better connection with this leg right there. So that's another thing that you can do to sort of fix your circuits, is making these copper tape sandwiches that are copper to copper and not copper to sticky side.
like smooth copper to smooth copper is really important that we can do it. And the other things is like maybe you accidentally covered this whole piece here with tape, because if I do cover this whole thing like this by accident, then it doesn't work. Those are sort of the most common that I can think of.
That's also why we have troubleshooting.
And that's also why we have troubleshooting. So, Sai, if you come over into Zoom...
He's in Zoom.
Perfect! Then we will make sure it gets working. So then I will say goodbye to my YouTube friends and hello to my Zoom friends, and we will see you guys tomorrow as we make Charmander. Alrighty, have a good one, and we will see our Zoom friends in just a moment.